as part of being involved in Fit for 2020, we wanted to come up with something a bit original to discuss as a centrepiece. So a bit of my experience, I'm a lifer, I'm a club lifer, been doing it for 20 years, started at IGT, spent a couple of years in Las Vegas, predominantly started in game development. I invented a thing called Vegas Star, which is the big roulette and blackjack products on your floor in 2002. Our company got bought out in 2006 and they moved me over to Vegas. Came back to Australia in 2009 and worked for eBet. And 18 months ago, started with DWS. The big fellow on the left was my oldest son's godfather. He's basically the top game designer. Was at Sci Games. He's got to serve a year non-compete. And the guy on the right, the very right, is the guy that invented Lightning Link, Scotty Olive, a good mate of mine. So I live and breathe it and like to talk about it. And I got 5 scatters on Queen of the Nile. I think that's my best bona fides. 400 times bet. Thank you very much. Okay, so I said the story before when I first met Gary Gibson, speaking on behalf of DWS while I was working for eBet. Hi, Christy. And he made the very valid point that unless your club is doing the good things to be profitable, you can't do all the things you want to do. Community works and looking after veterans and the like. So 97 was a real change for this industry. Anyone has a guess what happened in 97? GFC was 2007. Pubs were given the right to have spinning reel machines. Before that, they were allowed to have what's called AAD machines, which is approved amusement devices. They are poker machines, the original poker. The casino was really, whilst it came in 95, 97 proved to be the temporary site. And that's when, pardon the French, but that's when shit got real. That's when things started to happen. Why the story of Lego? Well, I got 2 boys, 9 and 10 years old. Lego is prohibitively expensive. I think I have a fondness for it. I think most of us grew up in some way, shape or form. And it's amazing how it's changed. And it was a good story because their patents ran out. They were protected by patents. If you don't know what a patent is, it's a written legal form in lawyer speak which allows no one to copy your product. But they don't give it to you forever. They only give it to you for a short period of time, which is 25 years. And that ran out. So anyone could have copied these little plastic bricks. So it's interesting to see how they did it and how they adapted to the new world. The market we play in, it's complex. We're talking about this virtual world. Rhonda Bowen was talking about, is your club adapting to that? Demographics are changing. Our population's shooting through the roof. We're concentrated in key areas. Regional growth is very slow population-wise, and the government really does have to work a lot harder to get that better. You go to places, I lived in the States for 3 years, you can drive and you'll see towns and towns and towns and towns. In New South Wales, I can drive for a good 2 hours and not come across a town. So we're still very widely spread out, and I think that needs to be improved. We have a clumsy, imperfect corporate structure. I think we know that. Getting voted in on an electoral cycle, whether it's politics or on a board, has its flaws because you're really only producing for the short term. To get the long-term goals is a tough thing to do. And then the bump in the road came. Last Thursday, I got a text from a guy called Morgan Stewart. He's the CEO at Club Taree, and he says, I don't know if you've read the papers or seen the news, but Lego have just put off 1,500 workers, 8% of their workforce. And I hadn't seen it, and luckily enough, I had Friday night free. So between me and a 12-pack of beer, we had to redo and fix this. I really had to look at why it was applicable and why I shouldn't start again. Maybe a quick trip to the church around the corner. But we decided to carry on because the story's still very sound. Okay, so what did they do? They hit 14, what a pun, sales hit brick wall. There it is, it's all up there. What happened? They've got some strategies, the car has gone off the road and landed in a ditch, and now we have to pull it out and get it back up to speed again, said the chairman of Lego Brand Group. Someone got that. So they realised it immediately. They didn't wait. They just didn't sit there and go, well, it's just seasonal, we'll get better. It was good 10 years ago, why wouldn't it be now? They addressed the situation immediately. Okay? And that's important. Okay, it's been on the brink before. Does anyone know, is it BEAR, E-A-R, or B-A-R-E? I looked it up. There's nothing on the internet that could tell me that, which is surprising. B-A-R-E? Okay. It's a product that doesn't have batteries, it doesn't have a screen, but it's relevant. I mean, that's tough to do. They're really swimming against the tide, so you wonder why that is. They went through a tough process. But the story's still relevant. As a betting man, I think they'll get to it. This is
Hi
a quick
everyone.
video.
Today I'm going to be talking about a famous toy manufacturer that almost went bankrupt 10 years ago, but that turned its business around to become the world's top-selling toy manufacturer today. I'm obviously talking about Lego and their famous Lego bricks. Lego invented the little stackable bricks that are sold in sets to kids and that the company patented. In the late 90s, Lego obtained the rights to design kits based on popular movies like Star Wars and then later Harry Potter, and which have represented a major source of revenue since. Amongst this line of products, Lego also counted diverse other Lego branded products like computer games, apparel, and theme parks. But Lego's patents soon expired, and they didn't protect Lego from copycats anymore. On top of that, there was less interest in playing Lego in new generations of kids that grew up with video games, with tech products. In the 2000s, Lego was on the verge of bankruptcy. They got rid of Lego branded products and decided to focus solely on their core value proposition, the Lego bricks. They slashed their costs by getting rid of products and kits that were unprofitable and by streamlining operations. Lego kits had been a boy products for a long time, but now Lego is literally doubling the size of its market by designing sets for little girls who rave about them. Lego got back in the race with earnings that have soared in the past years and a brand that is recognized by others. The recent proof of it is the success of the Lego movie. Although they almost failed, Lego redesigned its business model to stay as relevant to kids today as it was in the past.
Okay, I've just run out of our infamous benchmark cards, which gives everything as a ratio, so I'll find where the others are. The key thing she said at the end, which I loved, it's all in her last statement, it's relevant. Is your club relevant to the people around it, the changing demographic, the changing market? This is the recent history. I'll come back to it. You know, it's a good story. I don't know what DKK is. It's a Danish currency. Kroner? Right. What's it to the Australian dollar? Any three? Okay, cool. That's still big numbers. I mean, that's billions. Little plastic bricks. So they had a record last year, FY16. Had a record. Yet, you know, they weren't impervious to it. The numbers are staggering, aren't they, huh? Elements, I guess that's a brick. You know, you've all trodden on it, right? They're sharp. But they do think, you know, their mission and vision statements, the first things you should almost tackle in a strategic plan. They talk about the builders of tomorrow. They talk about inventing the future of play. They know they want to keep kids active. They want to keep their minds active. So that sort of are the cornerstones of what they do. I'm not a raise your hand kind of guy, because I don't do it when other people ask me to, so I'm not going to expect you to do it. But I'm going to run two little experiments. I'm going to use Lego. Christy, you can do one. If you try and copy what another club does and you don't know the DNA of the club, you're not going to get very far. So I'm going to, So I'm going to give Christy here, Penrith RSL. Okay, idiot proof. I'm going to give her the Lego kit without the instructions. She can look at the box, and I'm going to see, we'll see at the end how close she can replicate it. Because you haven't got all the information. If you go into another club, you say, I'm going to copy them, but you don't know what's on the underside or what planning went into it. Daryl, I'm coming your way. You're going to have a go at the second box. Daryl's from Muswellbrook.
Yep. Never read instructions.
Currently owner of a new golf course, I believe. Well done.
Oh, hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay. Doesn't read instructions. Very male of you. Doesn't take road directions or anything. So they come with bags. Oh, that one's free. Okay, we'll see how you go by the end. I'm not going to rush you into it. Saves you from having to listen to me for the whole time. I had a green clicker. Christy, on the desk, is there a green clicker? Hey, jump on over if you want to help either of them out with it. I got it. Okay, your club IP. Anyone want to have a go at what IP means? Intellectual property, well done. Intellectual property is what is yours. Sometimes you can legally guard it. But in most cases, it's singular to that club because you developed it. You know exactly how your club what your culture is because you made it so. You can't just copy someone else's. The similar thing is DNA. I tried to look up what that meant this morning. I couldn't pronounce it, but I know it ends in acid. DNA is the same sort of thing. New employees, new board directors come into your organisation and they almost feel it intrinsically how you work. You don't just give them a set of rules, you lead by example. And that comes through from strategic plan and the importance of why you do it. Like anything, you need money to do it. You need people to do it. So the allocation of the resources and understanding what you're going to do so it isn't pie in the sky. It's good to start with pie in the sky, but really where you've got to get to is what you're able to do. It's a good living document to give the board, the committee, management, a work plan to achieve the vision and the mission of the club, which is what you start with. I won't ask for the hands thing, but you're all bit of nodding, you're all done a strategic plan of some description in some way, shape or form. Hi, Gary. It's a long-term visionary document. Japanese companies are very famous for doing 1, 3, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100-year plans because that's what they project. But it's not as if they sit on it. It keeps changing, is evolving as the environment changes. So what's the difference? You're on a board, you're management. I know you have to get involved in the brass tacks of the club, schooner prices, bowling, green maintenance, golf club maintenance, the operational running of the club, but really strategic planning is pursued by the board or management for a committee because you're seeing further. This is what you need to be able to tell the members is happening and that you are planning for it. It's a good communication piece. Talking to your members about that, people feel good about it. Have any of you done renovations and noticed that trade goes up? Anyone have a go? Yeah, you've seen it? People are busy. They're curious. They want to know what their money's being spent on. There's a guy who owns 3 McDonald's franchises, and every month he paints a door or a wall or something in one of the McDonald's because people walk in and go, something's changed. I always tell people change the furniture around. You don't have to change the furniture. Just move it around. Change the gaming machines. Put a different formation. People think you're doing it. I think it's a female trait, but do you move the furniture? For absolutely no reason. But I walk in and go, I kind of like it. So it has its purpose. Management planning is tough. If your club's, Daryl's got a golf club, he's expanding. Liverpool Catholic down in Sydney is multiple hotels and doing whatever. Bankstown Sports are building a commercial tower. Their current structure of management and board can't stay the same way if they're in a completely different business. So you have to have a way to look at that. The operational planning is the day-to-day management, which boards should know. They should be able to ask the hard questions. But as part of the strategic planning process, you really have to leave that aside. And then the board or management committee approves the ops plan because you really need to be over it. You can't plead ignorance, no plausible deniability. Okay, I'll just hand the mic to a couple of you. Think of a great club, 15, 20 that are probably in decline. And the flip side, I'm not going to come up here and name names about ones that are in declines, but sometimes I think you know who they are. I got into the industry in 97, not having a go on them, but Manly Leagues was one of the top clubs. Were they a victim of demographics? Don't know. Yeah. Think of some clubs that are on the rise. I always like to state Hornsby RSL. Hornsby RSL oppresses me every time I go in there. They've captured the market in what they are doing. They understand the demographics. They're revenue diversifying and all those trendy words. But at the end of the day, they've really set a good plan and they're on the rise. And if you asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have put Hornsby RSL anywhere near it. So does anyone want to volunteer to speak into the microphone and tell them maybe why a club they know went down? Come on. I only need one. All right. How's that Lego going, Daryl? We got him right here. Christy? You got two of it? No, okay. Sir.
Col Wilson, Windsor RSL. 6-7 years ago, we had a president and a board, which I was on, And it was run down to the point of closing the doors, because whatever the board decided, the president would change the next day. And eventually he passed away. And I might say thank goodness, but he'd been there for 27 years. And you couldn't change him. The moment he got ill and decided not to stand, the board changed. We hired a fantastic manager. We've changed most of our staff. They're young and they go ahead. And from the stage where we were going to close the doors, our sub-branch loaned the club $600,000, which was since repaid. And since then, up to last month, our turnover is $11.8 million a month from closing the doors. And so we go through all the strategic planning. We alter the strategic plan as necessary as we go along. The board goes away to somewhere down the road and we sit there for 2 or 3 days and we go through it for the next 5, 10, 20 years. And at the end of last month, we have a board structure which is 3-2-1. You know, you do 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and then you get re-elected. And the president's elected by the members every year from the floor of the AGM. What we did this year, we put together a montage of photographs, plans, and whatever, and we showed it to the membership, what our thoughts were for the future. I mean, it's a lot of it's pie in the sky, isn't it? But I mean, if we did it today, it would cost $100 million, you know, to build this facility. We have 6.5 acres of land, so we have the room to do it. But we're going to do it bit by bit, bit by bit. And that's how we came out of jail. You know? Oh, sorry. Yeah, our membership when I joined was 2,500. And the membership's coming out on badge draws, 25,000. So we're going that way. And earlier you might have heard somebody from the stage up there, they mentioned a facility called Easy Lane. Our management was very forthright in how we're going to go forward and went looking around. And there was 2 facilities in Sydney we didn't exactly copy, but one was the Greens at North Sydney and the Gardens of Alexandria. And, anyway, we built on that, and that's extremely successful. It's an alternative food outlet. Yeah. Yeah, we're going places. And you can turn it around if it's...
That's, Colin, you're absolutely... I should have actually said Windsor RSL. I spent about an hour with Tony not long ago asking about how it came about. I mean, if you know the geography of Windsor, it's for Spa, it's semi-rural, it's northwest of Penrith, and the membership they were going through was as far as St Mary's, Penrith, and all around. I know the area well. But the thing about it, as I always said, people will drive past 20 clubs to eat somewhere different. They're not going to drive past 20 clubs to have a punt. So food makes a difference. Easy Lane was a big thing, and PKF did a really good job out there when they were doing that. Recognising why clubs go down, as Colin said, you know, governance is a big thing. People think the club is going to remain the way it is. Real estate developers have got their eyes on it. You know, bowlers, God bless them, and golfers, maybe a bit unrealistic in their expectations of, you know, what the value of that sport is. I know the club exists for that reason, but the times they are changing. Anyone else notice something about clubs when they go downhill? You don't have to name the club. No, I think you were just intrigued as to where the Lego building's going to get to. Okay, this is from the National Census 2015, undertaken by KPMG. There are more golf clubs in distress that are not in distress. The number they had was EBITDA, I think, of 10% level to do that. That is an indication of where it is. What's the thing in common with them? That is national. So total sample of, where is it? 194. what have they got in common? Bowling and golf. It's flat and green. I know the football fields are there as well, but they're far difficult. Golf, a sport in decline. I still play, teaching my kids to play, but the reality is that people haven't got the time, and bowling is a membership-based issue with that. So it just shows you where it is. Why do you have to plan? It's not all going to be the same. I said it before, the real threat drives a German car. The pubs since 2009 have really got their stuff together. Okay, I'll make sense of this data. August 09, 1,289 clubs, 1,122, and the number of machines underneath it. We have lost 3% of machines in the market. The regulator wants to do that in New South Wales via a trading scheme to get machines out of the market. They're doing that in the ACT. This is so we've hit our zenith and we're on the way down. On average, we've got 62 machines in every club. It went up by 12%. Pubs didn't do that so bad. They lost a few more than we did. Pubs in some areas like Balmain, Paddington, etc. were closing because there were far too many of them, even out in country towns. But look at the bottom line. Change in net win per day. They are mercenaries. They do not answer to a board. They do not have an entry into it. They are far better allocators of resources, and their wages are not so high, and they have all those things that a private sole operator trader can do. So the thing is to learn from them. You can't just say, well, pubs have got it better and throw your hands up. They've learnt over the years. Their food offering's better. The pub valuations have gone through the roof. This isn't a mistake. They didn't trick into this. They didn't luck into it. They worked towards it. So how money flows through a club? How $100. This is taken through all the clubs we work with. This is not any particular sort of club, but it's highlighting the surplus that gaming gives you, the value of what it is. Windsor RSL, they build a food operation that drag people in. They then went into the gaming hall. Are they making money out of food? Probably not. But they know exactly what the correlations are, the lost leaders that we talked about before. And then by the time you work it down, EBITDA's 19% is what the level of what should be. I think Dean Thomas is the one who told me that at 28% you can reinvent your business. And there are a lot of clubs that are over 30%. But once you start talking about low teens and below, you can't reinvest the money into the venue to allow it to get back up. A lot of clubs are under-invested in, and you can see that in their annual reports. So these are just some key numbers. You talk about strategic planning, you talk about understanding the resources you have, look at the numbers going back, look at your other clubs, look at the peers, and you'll see what you need to do. So in terms of thinking it, Colin also alluded to it, they allowed time and space for a big picture, visionary thinking. I love the idea of just showing pie in the sky stuff. I mean, you guys up at Windsor RSL have got runs on the board, so you sort of earned the right to do it, and they can see the process. You can't just dangle big things in front of people and not do them. Shell Harbour workers, if you've ever been down there in the Wollongong area, are doing a great job of communicating that to the club, and they're delivering on it. So the more you can do it, like I said about the Renos, they'll come in because they're curious and they want to know where their money's being spent. Off-site is a good option. Perceptions of the club's future prior to the workshop, so that you understand what people in the club know. Surveys, getting out and speaking to them is important, because how the board sees it may not be how the membership sees it. You've got to have open and free discussion. It's the only way these things work. You need every idea canvassed. Hopefully, there's not any issues being held with that. Impartial facilitator is more so a case if they were structured so that you get going on the right direction. Even with I've sat in on a few, and sometimes a facilitator can't stop a particular direction where they're going. And you've got to get everyone to talk. You've got to stick the microphone or the conch or point to them. You can't have quiet wallflowers doing that. Who's involved? Diversity is good, the board and the committee. In many cases, you want senior management there. They need to be part of the process. They need to be able to answer the questions, and it's a good back and forward with the board too. And then you need some plans, and they've got to be shared with the members. You've got to have a commitment to it. They need to know what the board's doing for them. So strategic thinking. Plans only as good as the information. Either competitive clubs around you or clubs like you are worthwhile looking into their 3-4 year annual reports, see what their investment and depreciation have been, do a little timeline. We do a lot of that. You do a timeline of your competitors to see why they've got up to where they are. Didn't just happen by mistake, didn't happen overnight. They generally built up to it. Sometimes it starts with the most boring stuff, infrastructure. Building a car park there's no colour swatches in that, there's no carpet samples. There's no trips to China to look at chairs. But you do that and generally clubs will go up when they invest in infrastructure. And you've got to be realistic. You know what I mean. Okay, so a SWOT analysis, nodding, everyone knows what that is, they've been through them ad nauseum. Developed in the 50s by Boston Consulting Group. Hasn't been top since. So when we're still talking about something that's 60 odd years old and we're still using it, it must be pretty good. It's a good, open and transparent way for everyone to understand, other people's point of view of what the club is and how it fits into the area. And then you'll, from there, identify actions you've got to address, obviously, which is the weaknesses and the threats, the W and the T out of that. KPIs that you've got to come to, realistic timeframes, and then who's responsible for it. You can't just put it on a piece of paper, put it in a drawer, hope it never comes out. And the document you've got at the end is the strategic plan, which will be used, which should be addressed every board meeting. At least understanding where you are in the process. If things need to change along the way, so be it. You have a vision and mission statement, the immediate purpose of the club. They're two different things. The mission is what it does now, what it achieves. The vision is the future of the club. It's a great forward-looking thing of what you want to do now. I'm pretty sure the mission statement of many bowlers and golfers clubs 30 years ago was to serve the bowlers and golfers. Well, as you include community in that, that's probably changed over time, and that's a good thing. They're the catalyst, the action that motivates and influences all the stakeholders. They understand the direction you're going because you told them as much. So you've got short-term goals of 1 to 3 years. Medium term is 3 to 8 years. That's where financing comes into it. You understand the bank's requirements of what you're doing. How do you prepare your financial papers for that? And the longer-term vision. You've got to dream big. I think you had the right idea, Colin. Put the stuff that's pie in the size scuff. If the club goes well enough, you'll achieve it. And if you achieve a good percentage of it, you aimed high. Okay, the young'uns. Just a couple of words. What do you think people think of clubs? What do you think young people are? By that I mean under 30. What do you think they think of clubs?
No, they don't. I think they're more into the pubs and that scene.
Okay. But if you were to say, Mr. 30-year-old, what do you think is inside those walls? What do you think they'll say?
Full of old people.
Right. There you go. Is the perception real? No. But they drive past us every day. Their grandparents playing there. Anything else?
No, just old people.
Just full of old people. Bad carpet.
Cheaper drinks.
Cheaper drinks. Attracts a bad crowd, right? I do work for a club near where I live in Sydney, and they sample all the clubs around them because he doesn't want to have the cheapest beer. He wants the second cheapest, he just doesn't want the cheapest because he doesn't want those people in there. How will transport change, guys? Do you think it will?
Sorry?
How will transport change in the future? Will it have an impact? Yes. Driverless cars? Free buses, okay. I was up looking for free hoverboards, but changing tax system. It's going to happen. I think my generation, I think people younger than me, are actually going to be the older generation now that's currently going through is going to be the last to see retirement. I won't retire. I'll go till I croak. It's probably going to how it's work. Escalating prices. The tax system will have to reflect this. We are constantly having levies put onto it. They are short-term methods. GST kind of solved part of the situation when it came in about 15 years ago. But we've got antiquated notions like pensions. They are going to go. We have a retirement age of 65 that does not reflect, our life expectancy. So that will have to go up. Things that are going to come under, I can smell it a mile away. Negative gearing is days are numbered because they see that huge pot of money, politically dangerous at the moment, and sooner or later they're going to start to look at that pot of money and go, we need that. We need it for the ageing population. We need it for infrastructure to keep going up. We've got an increasing number of people coming into the country via migration. So how do you do that? The future of retirement and the pension is going to be immense. What did they do on January 1? They changed the allocation of the pension, right? In terms of it's taken away from couples and putting it to singles, made the value low. However, they cooched it together. It didn't matter. They were just giving less money. And that impacted a lot of clubs straight away because there was less disposable income straight into the pocket. I talked about the rise of esports before. Esports are an picture playing rugby, but you're playing it on a video game. They play in teams, they currently play it at home, but they're looking at an opportunity to play it live in a venue of some description. It's kind of like poker, works at the moment. It's a tough, different world. I'm learning a lot of it at the moment, but this is what kids do. And they play it online, which allow them to interact. Their version of social connection is far different from ours. You know, they have Facebook friends that they will never meet. And I've got a nephew who's out here from the UK, 21. He will never answer the phone, but he'll pick that text up. It's like they are averse to doing that. We're not going to change it, so we just got to go along with it. So understand that's how they communicate, that's how they interact with each other. Okay, they're not saving for home. Gen Y make up 30% of CommSec accounts. They have given up trying. Gen Y is born in, I can't remember, but I know they're basically under 35 now. They've given up doing that. 30% of CommSec accounts, that's amazing. They're trading on the stock market to get a property. In other words, they're having a punt. Wow. Slackers, huh? Stop working, start living. I think we already know the demographic breakdown, but the fact that 54% of the population would have been born after 2000 by 2030, meaning that 54% are under 30, is again indicative of where it's going. Baby boomers are going to start to move on, and where that money filters down via inheritance and stuff will determine where this goes. Okay, we did a survey last year. How many clubs? 74 clubs. Does your club have a strategy to appeal to under 30 years of age? See a bit of nodding. No. At 54%, that's not right. I think people thought they had an idea. No way people have put that in writing. And I understand it. You go through a strategic planning process. You might have, do we have a plan? No. Do we want under 30s? No. The best example I use is Westport Club, Port Macquarie. Came back to another club in the area. I said, they've got the high ground. You can't compete. And they said, what do you mean? They don't want drinkers. They've got no high tables. They've got the tab in the back corner. They've got no kids' facilities. They've taken the bar out of the game room and replaced it with a cafe. They know exactly who they want. And they're not the ones you want. They want the 58-year-old female who comes in there, feels safe and secure with a good car park, and is willing to sit in a gaming room for hours, drink 1 or 2 wines, have coffee. They don't want to be a whole bunch of 50-year-old guys coming through, making heaps of noise, betting on the horses. They knew their market. So if I was to ask them, do they have a strategy? Yes, they do. We don't want them. So sometimes if you don't want them, that's not a bad answer, but at least go through the process of understanding why you don't. This is what they're doing. Look into what they're doing. I think this is going to be the next white elephant, this skill-based gaming. Terrible. But in terms of, I talked about how they interact. You know, how they got friends on Facebook that really aren't friends. I've introduced myself to people at this conference. I said, I'm on your LinkedIn thing. I don't know them. I felt obligated to go up and just introduce myself because I felt like a bit of a 30-year-old loser. But, you know, in terms of socialising, they're putting down the booze. All right. That's what they're doing. We see beer consumption is declining. Yes, craft beer is going up, but as a whole, they're not. A number of things with that, social issues, etc. But the slot machine manufacturers are not even valiantly trying. They're trying this sort of hybrid product. They're reacting not in a way to look at solving what the issue is. It's got to do with the venue. It's got nothing to do with the product that's going into the venue. We've been playing largely the same slot machines for 40 years. So what do they want? It's a pretty easy thing. You go and ask them. Don't read stuff on the internet and do whatever. Just go and ask them. It's actually the easiest way. I've got nothing more to suggest. It actually came about, a guy called Dennis Sullivan out at Forest rang one day. I'd done a couple of jobs for him. He says, how would you go about looking at what the 30-year-olds went? And I put my consultant's hat on and thought I could go through the process of getting as much money as I can. And I said, mate, it's easy. Walk down to the mall, get 2 under 30 staff and say, what do you think of our place? What do we need to do? Where else do you go? It might not be that you're not the first club in the first place in the rotation. It might just be they want a place on a Thursday night that has pizza and a darts comp. I don't know what the answer is, But go out there and ask them, and that is the lowest cost option you will find. And guess what? They're already in your midst. They're already working for you. Hopefully they're working for you. They're good workers. If they're working for you, go and ask what them and their friends do on a Saturday or Friday or whatever. If they're at uni, that's why we talk about esports. No one's in your auditorium on a Tuesday night. Let's do esports on a Tuesday night. Don't think it's the weekend. Get them in those off-peak hours. Ask them what they already do. Club Mudgee are just sending someone out this week in the street with a thing to approach anyone under 35, asking why they don't go to the club. Well, not asking them in a confronting manner, but Maureen hit the nail on the head. You know, she's going to walk out there, give them a bit of a, $20 voucher to come into the club. But the only way to find out why they're not is asking them. Doing a survey amongst the converted is not going to tell you much. So find out why they're not, especially in a club like Mudgee. Okay, go back to strategic planning. I've nearly got you all there. So the committee and the board move a motion to conduct a strategic plan workshop. Obviously you raise it. Some of you do it yearly. I think yearly is probably a little bit much. I think every 2 years you probably look to do a reset, and 3 is definitely starting to stretch that timeline out a bit. Responsibilities. No one's going to get away with not doing anything, so you really got to say, this is yours, this is yours. Know each person's skills, what's in their wheelhouse. Who's going to be included? Banks, accountants, local politicians, especially in regional areas. Those politicians love getting involved with stuff like that because they can be seen the ones to be delivering the good news. The fact that the venue's doing this stuff for the committee was because they drove it. And that's fine. If it helps you get to the end game. And the banks have been burnt by clubs before. So no longer are they doing 15, 20-year loans. They're basically looking to cap that out at 10. They're looking at, because they've been burnt, they know exactly some things that they won't lend for, and they'll be pretty upfront about it. Research is incredibly important, and there's so much in annual reports of what make other clubs, but approach other clubs who just do those things well. This is so open, this industry. I'm still astounded after 20 years what clubs share with each other. As long as you're not a direct competitor, they'll hand over everything, and I think that's great. Okay, and understand your own demographics. Don't just think that what's in the boardroom or currently what's in your lounge actually reflects the wider community. All that data is available. It's generally free. Okay, the how-to. Explain how a goal will be accomplished. If you can't explain that, then you're really not going to get there. Make it an operational activity. And you've got to be able to commit most of it, execute within 1 to 2 years. Then the task, you've got to describe the task taken. The strategic plan just can't be this pie-in-the-sky document that sort of names some very nice to-dos. You've got to have the granular details in it, and that's why you get facilitators and companies like DWS to do it, because they actually document it all. Timeline, so that you're holding to an account. Board meetings are good, they're monthly. The responsibility, hand it to someone. They're responsible for that. You've got audit committees, you've got different committees on boards. This should also be one of them. And it's got to be updated regularly. You're formally accepted at a board. You oversee the strategic plan. The club manager will have their own set of responsibilities. Obviously, they're at the front of this. The board will be over the top of it. But to be engaged with it, you need to understand its process. Okay? So you do a full review. Generally have 12 months. I think 6 months is a bit much. And you really need to do a big one at no later than 3. Okay, how did you go on the Lego? That is truly awful. I could use that next session tomorrow. I bought 2 sets of it. Daryl has constructed... Oh, well done, man. Good stuff. I got the wheels on. Yeah, good. Okay, how close did you get to the box? Yeah, it's tough, huh? He's got a lot of pieces left over. Thank you, Daryl, for that. Appreciate that. Yeah. That was just a simple exercise to say that as much as you want to copy someone else, if you don't have the DNA, the instructions, set it on your own set of plans, you're not going to get very far in doing it. Final message, unless you have a full picture and some detailed instructions, you're really guessing. Create your own DNA and IP. Think about what the think about what the management board and members of 2027 will say about the 2017 board. Okay, you don't want to be the board that sold them out 10 years ago or missed a certain change in things or didn't invest in this and that. And what are you going to do to leave a footprint of success? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for understanding. Thank you knowing that Lego probably wasn't my fault, though I did stop it in its tracks. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for attempting Lego. I've got you out of here early, and enjoy the next couple of days.